It was a crisp morning when I jolted awake to the screech of metal on asphalt, a sound that sliced through the quiet like a knife. Someone was shouting about non-compliant tires. I stumbled to the window, still half asleep, and saw a tow truck hooking up my pickup, parked as always in my driveway, where it had sat for 6 years without issue. My heart pounded as I threw on a jacket over my pajamas and ran outside, barefoot on the cold gravel. There she was, Linda, in a garish floral blazer and oversized sunglasses, arms crossed like she'd just won a war. "You were warned," she snapped, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "That truck VY OLAT's code 17B. This is a courtesy." I blinked, taking in my sprawling fields, the dirt road, the private property sign on my gate. I wasn't in any HOA. "Lady, you've got the wrong guy," I said, trying to keep my cool. But Linda's smirk told me this wasn't a mistake. It was a fight she'd been itching to start. It all began 2 weeks earlier. I come home from a long day at the feed store, bone-tired, and found an envelope taped to my gate. I figured it was a delivery notice, but when I tore it open, my jaw dropped. Violation notice, it read, listing due law 1,200 in unpaid community dues and fines for my fence's unapproved design, my house's non-neutral paint, and get the Izumi wildflowers being overgrown. I laughed out loud, standing in my driveway like a lunatic. My land wasn't part of any HOA. I bought it specifically because it was exempt, free from petty rules. Thinking it was a mix-up, I tossed the letter aside. But then another arrived, and another. By the fourth, with a red sticker threatening a lien, I was done laughing. I fired off a polite email to the address on the notices, attaching my deed and exemption papers. I even drove to the shiny new community office at the edge of the nearby Subby VY Shown and handed a copy to a bored kid at the desk. Problem solved, I thought, until Linda showed up. I was fixing a fence post when she marched up to my gate, clipboard in hand, looking like she'd stepped out of a bad sitcom. "Your property is delinquent in assessments," she declared. "No introduction, no pleasantries. I'm here to resolve this before we escalate." "Escalate what?" I said, wiping sweat from my brow. "I'm not in your HOA." She introduced herself as Linda, president of the Pine Hollow community, and claimed my land had been annexed in a recent vote. "The board approved it unanimously," she said, while VYing a map like it was a royal decree. "Welcome to Pine Hollow." I stared, dumbfounded, then slowly shut the gate in her face. She yelled about fines as I walked away, but I figured she'd give up. I was wrong. The notices kept coming, now stapled to my trees and mailbox, citing my gravel driveway, my barn's height, even my solar panels as aesthetic violations. I handed everything to my lawyer buddy, Mike, who nearly choked on his coffee. "They're trying to annex your land without consent? That's not just bold, it's illegal." He drafted a cease and desist letter, and we sent it certified mail. I thought that'd be the end. Then came the tow truck. I stood in front of my truck, glaring at the driver. "This is my land, my driveway. Behind my gate," I said, pointing to the private road sign. "Touch this and it's theft." Linda fumed, screaming about HOA rights, but the driver unhooked my truck and peeled out. I pulled out my phone and played security footage of her lackey, Tom, sneaking onto my property to slap fake citations on my barn. Linda's face paled. "That's not admissible," she sputtered. "That's trespassing," I shot back. "That's illegal." She stormed off, vowing to take it to her board. That's when I decided to dig deeper. I drove to the city records office with every notice and VY Deo I collected. The clerk, a grizzled guy named Ed, pulled up my property map and whistled. "Your land's nowhere near their boundary. They've got no claim." I asked about annexation votes. "City council hasn't approved anything in years," he said. Linda wasn't mistaken, she was scheming. Mike was thrilled. "This is harassment, maybe extortion," he said, drafting another letter. But Linda doubled down, gluing a final warning to my barn for due law 2,500. I installed more cameras, and sure enough, they caught Tom sneaking onto my land at 11 p.m., nailing notices to my oak tree. I called the sheriff, who took the footage seriously. Then things got wilder. Linda showed up with 2 board members, all wearing cheap lanyards, reading violations like they were FBI agents. I blasted audio from a neighbor, Sarah, who'd recorded Linda at a board meeting laughing. He doesn't know he's annexed. He'll cave like the rest. The board members froze. What is this? One asked. I gave Linda 30 seconds to leave or face the sheriff. She tried to pivot, offering to overlook violations for a small fee. You're bribing me to dodge fake rules, I said, shaking my head. They scurried off, but I knew she wasn't done. That night, Sarah handed me a flash drive. I recorded their meetings, she whispered. Linda's targeting border properties to boost HOA cash. The recordings were damning. Linda boasted about forging votes and planning to block my road with a gate. Mike and I prepped a legal complaint for harassment, trespassing, and fraud. I also printed flyers, sharing my story with neighbors. People were shocked. Some had paid hundreds in fake fees, too scared to fight. One couple shelled out $500 for drainage repairs on a street they didn't use. I contacted a local news station, and reporter Emily jumped at the story. We've been chasing HOA scams for months, she said. I gave her everything: recordings, notices, footage. The segment aired Friday, titled Man Fights HOA Overreach with Proof. It showed Linda's driveway circus, played her own words, and ended with me saying, I don't owe a dime. I'm not in their HOA. The neighborhood erupted. Neighbors brought me their own notices. Strangers clapped me on the back at the gas station. Linda posted online, claiming the news was edited, but screenshots of her old posts buried her lies. Then she sued me for unpaid dues and defamation. Mike laughed so hard he nearly fell over. She's suing you for telling the truth. In court, Linda rambled about community standards but crumbled when Mike presented her forged logs and her own recorded voice. The judge shut her down. No proof he's in your HOA, she said, recommending a fraud investigation. The courtroom buzzed, and as I left, people clapped a slow, growing wave. Linda's empire unraveled fast. Her board quit, and Tom posted a VY-Deo rant, admitting he'd issued baseless citations and calling Linda a dictator. I'd rather work mall security, he said. Linda, now community emergency coordinator, sent unhinged emails about curfews and psychological aesthetics. Memes exploded. One dubbed her Midnight Linda after Sarah's wildlife camera caught her taping notices at midnight, tripping into a planter. The clip went viral. Then the city audited the HOA, uncovering $5,000 in retreats, spa weekends, landscaping for Linda's house, and $900 for her SUV's tinted windows. She was arrested quietly, cuffed on her porch as neighbors cheered. The HOA office closed, yellow tape on its windows. I helped neighbors void fake fees. At the HOA's asset auction, I bid $20 on their gaudy welcome sign and hung it sideways on my fence, stenciling "Never Again" below. It wasn't petty, it was a warning. A month later, a consultant moved into Linda's old house, pushing voluntary codes. It was Linda, dyed hair and all. Sarah spotted her, and within hours, the street was outside, cameras rolling. Cheryl claimed ignorance, but old clips exposed her. She fled that night, Leah VYing a half-packed truck. The neighborhood changed. Porches became hangouts. Yard sales flourished. We threw a barbecue in my yard. Brisket, music, kids on swing sets once threatened with fines. A guy dressed as a gavel danced under string lights. It was messy, beautiful, real. Linda's fear-based kingdom collapsed, and we built something better. That sign on my fence? It's not just wood. It's every no we said, every stand we took, every neighbor who fought back. So what do you think? Was I right to push back, or should I have paid to avoid the drama? Could Linda have been stopped sooner if more people spoke up? How far would you go to protect your home from someone like her? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if your team Never Again, and subscribe for more stories of standing up to bullies.